Hello everyone, and welcome. In today's video, we're going to talk about one of the most legendary fighter aircraft in military aviation history, the Messerschmitt Bf 109. This aircraft was the backbone of the Luftwaffe during World War II and continued to serve even after the war ended. Did you know that when it was first introduced in 1935, a high-ranking Luftwaffe officer dismissed it as too fragile and difficult to maneuver? He even questioned the idea of an enclosed cockpit, believing that a real fighter pilot should feel the wind on his face to judge speed properly. But history proved him wrong. Over 35,000 units of the Bf 109 were produced in various versions, making it one of the most mass-produced fighter aircraft of all time. The 1960s, the Spanish military aviation industry produced a piston-engine fighter aircraft built by Hispano Aviation. This aircraft was the last descendant of one of the best fighter planes used during the Second World War, the Messerschmitt Bf 109. However, when it was first introduced in 1935, a high-ranking officer of the Luftwaffe pointed out that such a monoplane aircraft would be fragile and poorly maneuverable. And what about that cockpit enclosed by a canopy? A fighter pilot, he argued, should feel the wind on his face to properly gauge speed. Without a doubt, that prototype would achieve nothing worthwhile. This was just one example of the short-sighted assessments made during an era of rapid technological advancement. In reality, approximately 35,000 units of this aircraft were built across 8 basic versions, serving not only all Axis nations, but also several others before, during, and after the Second World War II. The Messerschmitt Bf 109 was a monoplane aircraft with low-mounted trapezoidal wings. Its static surfaces were covered with sheets of light alloys, while the movable surfaces were fabric-covered. The fuselage was entirely metallic in construction. The engine in the E version, depicted in the illustration below, was a Daimler-Benz 601, a 12-cylinder engine arranged in an inverted V, capable of generating 1,000 horsepower. The pilot was protected by steel plates 8 mm thick and a bulletproof windshield 65 mm thick. The landing gear, fully retractable except for the tailwheel, was somewhat fragile and relatively unstable due to the short span between the main wheels. During its baptism of fire in Spain, the Messerschmitt Bf 109 faced clearly inferior adversaries, a scenario that would repeat itself during the invasion of France. However, during the Battle of Britain, things changed when it encountered a worthy rival, the Supermarine Spitfire. It was a fierce battle, as both aircraft were of a superior class. The Messerschmitt was slightly faster, whereas the Spitfire was more maneuverable at high speeds. However, the Spitfire had the advantage of fighting over its homeland, while Messerschmitt pilots had to carefully calculate their fuel consumption to return to their bases. Due to the aircraft's limited operational range, a major weakness: pilots could only stay in English airspace for about half an hour. After Adlertag, which ended in victory for the Royal Air Force, the Messerschmitt Bf 109 continued to operate across European skies in various roles: as a daytime and nighttime fighter, a photographic reconnaissance aircraft, a stratospheric fighter, an interceptor, and a fighter bomber, always pushed to its limits. After the Second World War, the aircraft saw combat again in 1948. In an ironic twist of fate, one of its post-war models served in the Israeli Air Force alongside the Spitfire, this time fighting against Arab aircraft. The Messerschmitt Bf 109, which became the most famous German fighter aircraft of the Second World War, took part in combat on every front, from the first to the last day of the conflict. The first prototype, V1, flew in September 1935. In early 1937, the V4, V5, and V6 prototypes were sent to the Condor Legion in Spain for evaluation. These were followed by 40 B1 and B2 models, as well as 12 C1 series models. Curiously, the first prototype of the Messerschmitt Bf 109 was powered by a British engine, the Rolls-Royce Kestrel V, which produced 697 horsepower. Despite an intensive conversion process to the E1 model during the spring and summer of 1939, some early models remained in frontline units at the outbreak of the Second World War. These aircraft took part in the campaign in Poland and served as provisional night fighters in northern Germany until the spring of 1940, when they were reassigned to training units. The Bf 109E, which entered service in late 1938, quickly replaced the largest part of the earlier models, constituting roughly 75% of the 1,100 Messerschmitt fighter aircraft that the Luftwaffe had in service at the outbreak of the Second World War. This model took part in the campaigns of Poland, Norway, the Netherlands, and France, but it is better known for its struggle against the fighter aircraft of the Royal Air Force during the Battle of Britain. Equal, if not superior in some aspects, to the Spitfire and the Hurricane, with 610 Messerschmitts down during the Battle of Britain versus 1,043 of these. They were limited because of their role as close escorts for bomber aircraft and their partial conversion into fighter-bomber aircraft. Later, they operated in the Balkans against the Yugoslavian Bf 109 in North Africa and during the first stages of the invasion of the Soviet Union before being withdrawn from frontline units. Still, the Bf 109E continued equipping some squadrons of volunteers in foreign countries, allied with the Axis on the Eastern Front until 1942. The Bf 109T, which was designed as a carrier-borne fighter aircraft, was used only in Norway in 1941 to 42.